Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had a blessing come that you were expecting and it finally arrived, not when you thought it would, but finally arrived. It hit different. It hits different when you get a what you've been working for your whole life. Like I used to joke all the time, like, wow, this is what being Beyonce feels like to have that win that you finally worked for happen. Like it's amazing. And so I don't take it for granted. I don't, think that I'm the best producer in the game, and so I deserved it. Yeah, I worked for it. Yeah, but as another friend taught me, success is rented, and rent is due every day. So you have to put in the work and the effort, even when you reach what you think is the pinnacle. You
Hmm.
have to keep working for it because you don't know everything. Someone else can always teach you something else. And then you just go in there and you give it your best and be authentic and do it with integrity. And I did. This past year was a lot for me. This is probably the hardest year of my career, period, hands down, no hesitation. Because New York was one of the first states to shut down. We shut down, being in our newsroom March 11th, 2000. And in that time, I have produced from my couch, from my living room, I have produced some of the best television I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
And I have put more of me into it than I've ever had before. Being at this level, is different than anything else I've ever experienced. I have, I was on, for context for the audience, I was on the Ahmaud Arbery story from beginning to end, the Breonna Taylor story from beginning to end.
Mm.
I was on, George and all the other, unfortunately, dead Black and brown people that, in the year of racial reckoning, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was where I was. That was my beat. That was where I was.
Yeah.
So that was some of the hardest I've ever had to do was, as I put it, to report on my own trauma, to see Breonna Taylor and think, oh my God, that could have been my sister. She's around the same age as Taylor, my sister. And I'm thinking, like, that could have been me. That could have been any of us.
Yes. Yes.
Like, how many of us, like, we from Gary, Indiana, how many of us ain't dated a dude that ain't about the right?
Okay.
And then you could have accidentally got caught into something that he was doing. That could have been one of us. But to put myself in that reporting and dig for the truth and dig through like countless hours of video and documents and things to trying to find the truth of her story and Kenneth Walker's story, her boyfriend. It was a lot. And with Ahmad as well, looking at the videos and talking to people, and it was a lot. It was a lot. It was the hardest year of my career ever, and it resonated with people though.
Yeah. It's
Some of
hard.
it.
I don't think people realize like when we get tired or we get emotionally drained, we can we turn off the TV or we go for a walk or we go and do something else to take our mind off of it. But with your role and your responsibility, there's no turning it off. You're in it all the way. And I just want to say thank you for taking on that weight. Just even listen to you just recount this past year, I can feel it. Like I can just feel just a
Yeah,
tiny bit just through your voice and your tone, just a tiny bit of the weight that you experience going through story after story because we had a lot. There was a lot.
it was a lot, and my voice may sound like it's cracking a bit because it is. It was hard. As I said, I was reporting on my own trauma. This is happening to my people. This is happening to us collectively. Black journalists, we go into with integrity and objectivity, but we don't get to take off the skin in this experience.
No, never,
We don't. We
never.
don't.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, it hits home. But I didn't want to leave it because even though it was hard for me, I didn't want to leave it because I wanted these people to feel like they had a voice. I wanted these families, these victims to feel like that they had, you know, someone that they could talk to would understand their perspective. I always practiced it, but not knowing what it was called. But it was Michelle Miller, who was the Saturday morning anchor for CBS This Morning, who put a name to it. So shout out to her for the one who put that name to it for me. It's like, oh, high emotional intelligence. That's what it is. I was
Mm-hmm.
just operating in it, thinking that it's just best practices, but this is part of the DNA of a successful person. That emotional intelligence, also intelligence and savvy and networking, all of those things are a part of it. Whatever industry you're in.
Exactly. So what is a typical work day? What is it like for you? How does that operate? Because I just know that you hard to get a hold of. What is that like? And even if you could take us back to when you first moved to New York. I mean, we left off where you are now doing, you're back at home in Gary, you're producing it's 50,000. And of course you hop different places before here,
Right.
but and just continue to go up the ladder. But now you're New York. CBS is one, like what is that like? Oh my gosh.
When I first got the job, I was like I felt like I was like all the tingles, all the feels, all the emotions. It was like, oh my God, this is what I had prayed for all those years ago. This is, wow. I mean, I remember also when I was a kid, Murphy Brown was my favorite TV show, and she was on CBS. So I just remember thinking, between Oprah and all my favorite anchors on CBS Chicago, WBBM, I was like, to get back to where, you know, I always envisioned I would be,
Mm-hmm.
that in my mind's eye, to be at that network, like, what? Lord?
So what do you do for you? Like when you when you have to take that, finally you're able to kind of take that off, and
Mhm.
it's Dina Day, and and you're not at work. Like what do you do to make sure that you're still taking care of yourself? What is your self-love routine, your self-care? What is
Right.
your me day look like? What is it?
I call them Deanna Fridays. Get it? Deanna Fridays.
Okay, exactly.
Deanna Fridays. I unplug, and I know also I learned this in therapy. Number one, that's one of my self-care things. I see a therapist once a week because my mental health is just important as my physical health. It's just important as, you know, all of it. I think number one, we as African Americans and people of color need to realize that it's okay to say that we're struggling mentally,
Mm-hmm.
number one. And as I said, I used to be ashamed to say that I suffer from anxiety and depression, and I learned to manage it by seeing a therapist once a week. So I'm not ashamed to say that anymore because I know now that there's someone else that's also doing it and going through it and thinking that it's hard to live with it. I'm here to tell you that you can learn to manage it.
I wonder if that's one of the keys to loving yourself is going to a therapist, because
Absolutely.
it's definitely been a trend on the show. The people who I've handpicked and said, hey, I just feel in my spirit that you have something to share. We've all had that in common. I know I definitely had my time and my experience, what I thoroughly enjoyed when I went to therapy. But
Mhm.
I think every single person on the show has it's been to therapy, and they've all mentioned it on the show. So
Look,
it
I'm
must be
I'm here
tied
to
to
tell.
the self-love experience.
I'm telling you, it is when you lift the hood and check your own mentals And you realize like, ooh, there's some stuff in there, some residual stuff that I had never dealt with. I need to pull that out. I need to, heal from this. I need to heal from that. Traumas grow back to our infancy, childhood, adolescence, our young adulthood, that just pile up, and we just gloss over it and think, well, that happened to me, that, or this is just a personality trait. Well, honey, that's trauma, and you need
Mhm.
to unpack it and deal with it, and so you don't injure anyone else as you live your life.
Exactly.
So I'm perfectly aware that I have issues that I need to unpack on a daily basis. And yeah, I'm aware of those. I'm aware of those landmines, that trigger me. And one of the things I learned in therapy was set boundaries. Don't give everyone access to you. They don't
Yes.
deserve it.
Oh, yes.
You don't have to be savior to everyone. Some people are adults and can save themselves. So
Okay, not my assignment.
you're not my or as a proverb I read, like, not my monkey, not my circus.
Oh, yes. Yes,
that
yes.
is,
Mhm.
so yes, set boundaries and be okay with setting boundaries. I used to feel so guilty about saying no for my own sanity, because I thought, well, I have to, if I can do for someone else, shouldn't I? But I was pouring from an empty cup.
Mhm.
So, as when you're on a flight and they tell you, as their flight attendant is giving you the instructions before you take off, and they say, be sure to, in case of emergency, the, oxygen mask will fall from
Mhm.
the ceiling, put yours on
Yes.
first
Mhm.
before you help someone else. That is the mantra of life.
Yes.
Help yourself first so you can help someone else. And so and that's been hard for me. That has been hard for me to help myself first, because I think, again, I have to be a giver. I have to be selfless. I have to be superwoman. And Black women, we especially think that we have to do and be every woman, like Soror Shaka said.
Okay.
We have to be every woman, and every woman is tiring. That ain't my ministry. That is not my ministry anymore.
No, was not called for that.
No, that is not what God called me to do. He said, this is what I appointed you or ordained you to do. Stay there until I tell you to move. So, yeah, I think we need to get over that need of taking care of everyone else above ourselves.
Mhm.
Once we get into marriages and careers and motherhood, and being a good daughter and a good granddaughter and cousin, we think, well, I need to take care of all those people, and whatever's left over is for me. We need to flip that.
I don't know where we learned or where we thought that it's not okay, but it's okay. Not only is it okay, it's essential for your health because it's building up. And a lot of times, like you said, we don't even realize it. There's things that's already this trauma that's developed from childhood, from things that we cannot remember consciously, but subconsciously it's there, it's
Mm-hmm.
still there, and we have to heal from it. So for me, once I realized that I'm never going to please everyone anyway, I learned to stop being a people pleaser because I definitely was the people pleaser. Like, okay, I want this person to be happy. I want that person to be happy. No, no, it because they're not. You're not going to be able to please everyone. So maybe you should just work on pleasing yourself so you can be good to others on your own timing, on your own schedule, and at your own beck and call instead of surrendering to what someone else wants. That was definitely something hard for me that I'm still working on, but I've gotten a lot better.
I'm telling you, that no is powerful. I remember the first time I said no to my managers at work. I had never said no to my managers before, never. And I said no. And I was so afraid, like, oh my God, they're gonna fire me. They're gonna think I'm not a team player. They're gonna think I'm a bad producer. And then one of my managers like texted me. She's like, "Good for you. Good for you to say no, because if you don't, they'll just pile on the work, and you're just like you're drowning. But you think you have to be a good employee. I have to be, So no, I'm okay. It still, gives me a little little knot in my stomach to say it, but I know that it's for the best to have to get over that programming, have to deprogram that fear of no, and just say, have the audacity to say it, have the audacity to
Yes.
say no. So,
Yes, that feels good too. The audacity to say no. That's me. Just get a t-shirt. No, exclamation point.
right,
No.
just no, no.
So my question for you. So it's a Dina Friday, and let's say that you're going to watch something. What's like a series or something? What's the last thing that you watched and you enjoyed?
Queen Sugar.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, I was so behind. I didn't even realize the new season had started. I was like, oh my God, Queen Sugar. Where was I? I was like, oh, working. And Queen,
Naturally.
I'm like, yeah, like, and then I just binged like the last, 3 episodes of Queen Sugar, and I'm just like, oh, I just love Ava DuVernay. I just love her, and I love OWN. I mean, the network produces
Yes.
great television, especially dramas.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm into things that kind of just are not news based. They kind of just take me away. Sometimes it's triggering for me to watch things like Judas and the Black Messiah. I was like, oh, that's too much like what work. That's too much like what I'm reporting on already. Like I already know the story. I know what happened.
Yes.
like, sometimes watching things like that about the Black experience lately has been a little like, ooh, can't watch that. You
Totally,
know,
totally understand. Yes.
yeah. So I need things about Black love and those just like that. Like I like kind of my guilty pleasure. I hate to say this. I can't believe I'm gonna say this out loud. My guilty pleasure is Maury.
Yes.
Since I was a kid, I have watched the Maury show, and I know they're all trash, and I know they're all like just the worst. But I will DVR. Like I won't watch it for months, but I'll just DVR all the shows, and when I just need to just woosah, I'll just sit back and watch my DVR full of Maury and just like, ooh, child, this is ratchet, and
I don't
just
know what it is about it, but I don't know if it makes you feel better. But we're the same way. My husband and I, that is our guilty pleasure. We will do Maury, we'll do Fraternity Court as well with Lauren Lakes. And we
I need
just
to check
have,
that out.
oh my God, that one's so good as well. It's just like Maury, except, we got this sister on the stand that's snapping off on him. I love the way she just like snaps off and she looks like,
Right.
really? So you met on the bus and you gave it up already?
I love it. I love it.
And we just have the best time. It's like it's weird because you would think like, oh, you were married. Like, tell me about some type of romantic experience. I'm like, we eating popcorn, watching Maury. That's my
Yeah, so that's my guilty pleasures, the Maury show, and I have a couple of friends that won't admit. I won't say their names, but they won't admit that they love Maury too. So we text about it, like, "Oh, did you see this episode?" So yeah, it's my guilty pleasure. It's just so when I need to just decompress and not, you know, and not be engaged with the goings on of the world, because sometimes it can be a lot. I hate to say it, but as much as I love what I do, it's one of the most stressful careers because, like you said, you can walk away from television when things are happening, like, January 6th and Insurrection Day. I couldn't walk away from that. I couldn't walk away from what was going on there. So I was just, unfortunately having to deep dive into it.
yeah.
So though those stories hit you and they stay with you.
Awesome. Everything that you said today was just like so on point. I mean, just so many really good nuggets. And I just want to close out by kind of backtracking a little bit with you talked about how what you visualize in your mind's eye, how you was even watching the show on CBS when you were a kid. So everything that you visualize in your mind's eye. And I want to make sure that people understand like what you mean by that. I know exactly what you mean by that because
Mhm.
visualization is a powerful tool that we're all doing anyway, But a lot of times, if your self talk is constantly negative, then your visualization is negative and you don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're deliberately visualizing the future that you want to manifest, to me, those visualizations turn into a foreshadowing. They're literally a foreshadowing.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. So, what is that like for you when you say, in your mind's eye and you're breaking it down for someone who's like, I don't know what she means? How would you explain that?
I would explain as when you think about what you want for yourself, the life you see for yourself, what does that look like? What is your job? Where do you live? What's your salary like? What kind of home have you created for yourself? What is your lifestyle? Imagine all that. I mean, we do that as a kid when we play dress up and we play, pretend. That we shouldn't lose that skill as adults.
Yes.
We
Yes.
should not lose that skill as adults. That's when you say, this is what I want for myself. What does all of that look like? Am I happy? What does happiness look like for me? And that's different for everyone. Some people do vision boards, some people journal, but whatever it is that makes you focus on what is it I want for myself. Is it imagining it? Is it that, I need to put it up on a poster board? One of my favorite shows, Being Mary Jane, she used to put Post-its to remind her, on her mirror, like, this is what I want for myself. And this is what I'm focusing on at this moment.
Yes.
Whatever it is that helps you see it, to believe it, that's what it is. As my granny used to say, baby, if you can see it and believe it, you can achieve it. So that's, I have just been surrounded by people who believed in me, you included. Our family are big proponents of us being successful and happy and healthy. That's one thing the Fries are about. And, I was surrounded by people that spoke that life into me. So, parents, be sure that as you're on your journey, you speak into your children what you want for them and encourage them to seek out happiness, whatever that looks like, because that your version of happiness and their version of happiness as they get older may look different. So just speak that. I speak your truth into you. I speak your happiness into you, and whatever it is that you want to achieve, I speak that for you. And so speaking it, believing it, thanking God for it, and having gratitude for it, and also living authentically, humbly, and taking some people along with you on the journey, because as a Black woman, oh my God, the doors that were closed. Oh my God, the doors that were closed. But I knew that if I ever got my foot, my big toe in the door, I was going to bring a couple of other people with me, because I am guilty of not asking for help. I'm guilty of that pride that I can do it all by myself. I don't need anybody. That's cap. So so I now know that it's okay not only to ask for help, but to help other people. Because as you succeed, someone else needs to fill in the gap behind you as you move forward.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I love it. Oh my gosh. So is there anything that I can do for you? Because normally, people come on the show and they have businesses, so I'll order something and tell my audience to order something. And in
Mhm.
this case, you're not selling anything, but is there any way that I can support you or my listeners can support you?
Yes, share our stories. We're very big on sharing our stories on social media, the stories that I produce. On Twitter, CBS This Morning, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube. Go and see the reporting that we're doing. We're doing excellent journalism at CBS. I'm so proud that we dive fully into. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, the phone scared me.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
That's our cousin. That's our little cousin. My sister Taylor.
Hi,
Um,
Taylor.
both of my babies, Taylor and Ricky, my little cousin, your little cousins, my little sisters. They're such inspirations for me, because I want to be, full disclosure, I'm 20 years older than them. Yes, same mom and dad. Yes.
We're all shocked by that.
We were all shocked that I went away to college and my parents called, hey, guess what? So,
Start
like,
over.
but I want to be, a great role model for them. So that they're part of the reasons why I do what I do, you know, and I, fully honest and authentic, like, hey, I suck sometimes. And they check me, make sure I realize that you ain't all that. So, but, yeah, I just want people to know that in spite of your setbacks, in spite of all those things, that with that vision in your mind's eye doesn't go away with a failure. It doesn't. It just know that, okay, you gotta know over here, but try a different route, go back, regroup, change positions, and just keep moving forward. Like, it's a loss is not the end. It's not over till you're in the ground.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That really that meant a lot to me. I received that. It was as if you were speaking to me, and I just appreciate that word. And I'm so glad
Oh,
that so many people have you, that your little sisters have you, because you are an inspiration to so many. So thank you so much for being on the self love experience. And we're gonna find you. We're gonna put the links in the show notes for you, for CBS. Like, just share, and then keep sharing, sharing, because they're doing some awesome things over there, and we definitely want to support. That's going to be our way of giving back and paying it forward for just the kind words and the words of edification that you've spoken to us today. So thank you.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I love you so much.
I love you. I'm so glad that we even out to do this. And even with COVID, so many times we just think like, oh, we can't see anyone. Well, you can do a Zoom.
Right. Like,
We never thought about that until, this past year.
thank you so much, babe. Black girl from Gary. Trying to live my life.